Hello, everyone. Welcome to Stocker Team, the Investors Channel. On this episode, we just want to do a follow-up video review about the upcoming Dangote Refinery IPO. Of course, it is going to be the largest IPO ever in the history of IPOs in Africa. The IPO could be between the range of 3 to 5 to 6 or 10, even $10 billion in total total pricing. But as an investor, there are about a few information that you actually need to know before actually making up your mind, even when this IPO hasn't been fully announced officially with the prospectus. But there are a few information that we actually want you to know, which might actually change your perspective about this IPO, whether you want to do, you want to actually participate in the IPO, how much you want to buy, do you want to wait for a few months after the lockup period, or you actually want to be on the sideline, or you actually want to go in big. Of course, that's left for you. If you like this video and every video that I've been doing for you, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, put it on the notification bell so that you don't miss any update. And of course, this episode is proudly presented by stockacademy.com, the website for retail investors to get the insight, the ideas, and of course, the guidance and coaching to actually build a sustainable and long-term portfolio. Let's jump right into the video. So the first unknown fact that a whole lot of maybe retail investors or a lot of people who are not necessarily conversant with the Dangote Refinery is actually the massive investment and complex funding mix that was actually used to build and plan and actually operate this mega refinery. So this refinery was built at a cost of roughly between 19 to 23 billion dollars. This is making it one of the largest private industrial investments ever in the history of Africa. And as a matter of fact, there seems to be no other private investment that has been valued at this scale. The large portion of this money, so where this money came from, was majorly Dangote Group's capital. Some of them actually also came from bank loans. Some of those loans even came from construction and industrial bank in China. The company also issued bonds. There was also intercompany funding. So the Dangote Group actually lent money to the Dangote Refinery during the entire planning and construction of the complex. There were also some strategic external financing. The federal government of Nigeria through the NNPC also invested massively in Dangote Refinery. So to the tune of about $5.5 billion in bank loans, mostly domestic loans. There was also a period when about $300 billion, 300 billion naira rather, was actually contributed by a group of Nigerian banks. So it's actually very, very clear that there is a lot of complex funding between the company itself, external banks, regional banks, local banks in Nigeria, government funding, and it is now estimated that the company Dangote Refinery must have actually raised close to about $10 billion in internal loans to even cost to cover a whole lot of overhead cost and even the cost that actually went out of play. So that's the very, very first fact that you actually need to know. A very, very complex funding. So many people coming into play. It's not just the Dangote Refinery itself, bearing all the cost, which actually shows that the cost of this refinery is very, very huge. So the second point, which is also very, very important for you as a would-be investor in Dangote Refinery, is to also understand the kind of funding that actually even the structure of the funding. Now we already know the mix, how complex it is, but the mix of the funding and even the debt structure of the company, you also need to understand that, because at the end of the day, if Dangote has so much debt on its balance sheets, if the company is still being held down by a whole lot of debt, Dangote might not necessarily deliver on paying those dividends, as early as possible. So he has already whet the appetite of investors. Everybody's buzzing that, oh, we are going to be earning our dividends in US dollars. But at the end of the day, the structure of the business seems to be a 50% equity and 50% debt financing. So Dangote Group, like I said earlier, actually provided about 50% of that capital, which is a loan to Dangote Refinery. Other loans actually came, which is 50% of the debt came from local Nigerian and international banks. Like I also said, the Central Bank of Nigeria, on behalf of the federal government, contributed roughly about $125 billion. There were also some local currency funding. So if you look at all of this, it is glaring, however, that Dangote might have even paid off this debt, because less than 2 years ago, the chief executive officer, the group chairman of Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote himself, said as at that time, Dangote Refinery has almost paid off all the loans. So we are yet to actually see whether they've actually cleared the entire debt, or they have even borrowed more, because the refinery has also unveiled another plan to take the refinery's capacity from over 600,000 barrels per day to over 1.4 million barrels per day, which will actually make it the single largest refinery in the world. So bear that in mind. The equity and debt funding split shows that 50-50 debt and equity, and the company perhaps might have actually paid off those loans. Let's move ahead. And the third, and one of the most important facts you also need to know about the Dangote Refinery, is that Aliko Dangote himself will remain the majority owner even after the IPO. So even when Dangote Refinery is selling out 10%, according to what he said, Dangote himself will be owning close to about 65 to 70% after the listing on the Nigerian exchange, which potentially the largest portion, apart from Dangote himself, might be going to the government. According to him, he said the stake of the government was actually reduced to about 5%. I think that there was actually a time when they were supposed to provide some funding and the government didn't provide those funding. So perhaps it is yet to be seen. Is the government still having about 7.2% or 5%? We'll see that. But even as this point, is very, very glaring that Dangote himself is the largest shareholder in this business. We might have some individuals and entities like, his very dear friend, Femi Otedola, the former CEO of Forte Oil, who now is the chairman of First Bank. He might also be showing in the prospectus as one of the largest individual shareholders in this business. But as it is, Dangote controls this business almost end to end. Another point, which is the fourth point you need to bear in mind, which a whole lot of people might not actually know, which I've mentioned, I've hinted, and perhaps this is what makes this IPO to be one of the biggest, IPOs in the world, and the largest IPO in the history of Africa. So the refinery has already started plans to expand this facility to 1.4 billion barrels, 1.4 million barrels rather per day. This will actually make the Dangote Refinery to surpass the largest refinery in the world, which is the Jamnagar Refinery in India, and it will make Dangote Refinery perhaps one of the largest facilities in the world where oil refining is taking place, and it could actually make Nigeria a superpower when it comes to energy efficiency, energy security, and also by extension Africa. The fifth point, which I'm also going to be talking about is the revenue potential of this business. It needs to actually be stressed that at at this point, there are a whole lot of figures being bandied around, which you don't necessarily know which is correct or which is not, which is incorrect. As as at now, what we know is that the refinery is generating in the area of about $20 billion in annual revenue. The potential could go to as high as $50 billion in annual revenue. That is when you factor the downstream business, you factor the petrochemical complex, which is the fertilizer, the other allied products from a refinery, a whole lot of other products that the refinery can actually bring on board. So I've talked about the construction, the funding. I've talked about the equity, debt, profile. I've talked about, the revenue potential. And because you've watched this video to this point, there is a bonus. And before I go to the bonus, this video is proudly presented by stockacademy.com, the website and the platform for retail investors to get coaching, guidance, analysis, and of course, how to build a sustainable portfolio. So you can go to stockacademy.com and become a premium member and start your journey to building a sustainable portfolio. Now, here is the bonus. This is a huge fact that a whole lot of people might not actually pay attention to. And this is what makes this refinery to be one of the lifetime opportunity to be an investor in a business like this. So if you put all the banks in Nigeria together, I'm talking about the likes of First Bank, Access, GTCO, you're talking about Zenith, UBA, Stanbic, Sterling, all of those banks together, they are not necessarily near the annual revenue of Dangote Refinery. So in real sense, Dangote Refinery is reportedly generating close to 20 billion, if not more than 20 billion annual revenue, if it's able to actually push the capacity to over 650,000 barrels per day. And now, if the refinery goes beyond that, the refinery could be generating in the region of $55 billion or upward of $60 billion annually. If you look at the business from the petrol to the diesel to aviation fuel, petrochemical products, and other allied products, all of the banks put together in Nigeria are not generating more than 15 or even less than $15 billion, and Dangote Refinery on its own is able to generate over $20 billion. So Dangote Refinery, as it is, or as it's going to actually be, might actually be bigger than all the Nigerian banks put together in terms of their entire revenue on an annual basis. That makes this business a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It doesn't necessarily mean this business is immune from the risks, government policy instability, investors selling their shares, early investors, even someone like Dangote selling some of his stake, a whole lot of international investors selling some of their shares after, after the IPO, investors should actually know that any investment is not immune from risk. Investment carries risk to your capital, so there is no gainsaying saying this is a foolproof investment. But from what we can see from all the indication and all of this perhaps unknown fact, Dangote Refinery seems to be something that is going to actually shake the African financial markets and make Nigerian capital markets to be one of the greatest in the continent. That's all we have for you for this episode. If you love this video, give it a like, share it, subscribe to our channel, put your notification bell so that you don't miss any update. And just to close, keep investing, keep growing, take care, and bye-bye. See you in the next one.